My name is Vivian Perry. I am 29 years old. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, my wedding day, but instead, it turned into the moment I finally saw my mom for who she really was, a woman who'd spent years tearing me down while lifting up my older sister like she was some kind of saint. We were at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City, the place my mom had insisted on because it looked prestigious and would impress her social circle, even though it cost a fortune we could barely afford after Dad's business hit rough times. I was upstairs in the bridal suite adjusting my veil when I decided to slip out for a quick breath of fresh air before the chaos started. That's when I overheard them in the hallway below, my fiancé Bruce and his buddies laughing like they'd just won the lottery. But it wasn't just their words that gutted me. It was realizing later how my mom had pushed me into this mess all while favoring Pearl and treating me like I was never good enough. As I crept closer to the half-open door of the groomsmen's room, my heart pounding from nerves, already Bruce's voice echoed clearly. "That girl is so gullible," he sneered, and I froze, knowing he meant me. "I'm only in it for the cash. Her family's got at least $3 million tied up in that real estate firm her dad runs. Once I get my hands on her share, I'm set." His friends chuckled uneasily, but Bruce kept going, bragging about his gambling debts, $400,000 owed to some shady guy named Rick, and how he'd charm his way into my accounts after the honeymoon. "If she catches on well, accidents happen on those fancy trips," he added with a dark laugh that made my blood run cold. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking, and hit record, capturing every damning word about how this was his third scam, how he'd targeted other rich girls before. But as the horror sank in my mind, flashed back to all the times my mom had shoved me toward Bruce, calling him the perfect catch, while dismissing my doubts as me being too picky, unlike Pearl, who's always so decisive. Hey everyone, have you ever had a gut feeling about someone in your life that your family just ignored? What would you do if you overheard something like this right before walking down the aisle? Drop a comment and let me know. I'm curious if anyone's been through something similar. Growing up in New York City wasn't easy with a mom like mine. We lived in a cramped apartment in Brooklyn before Dad's real estate business, Perry Properties, took off in the early 2000s, allowing us to move to a nicer place in Manhattan. But even as things got better financially, the emotional stuff never did. My mom, Joan Perry, had always made it clear that my older sister Pearl was the golden child. Pearl was 5 years older, the one who got straight A's without trying, the one Mom bragged about at every social event. "Pearl's going places," she'd say, while I was the difficult one, the younger daughter who asked too many questions and didn't just fall in line. Dad Dennis Perry tried to balance things out. He was the one who'd encouraged me during my awkward teen years, telling me I had a good head for numbers, but he was always working long hours, leaving Mom to run the household like her personal kingdom. I remember one Christmas when I was about 10 and Pearl was 15. Mom had bought Pearl this beautiful necklace, real gold with a pearl pendant to match her name, saying it was for my special girl who's always so helpful. For me, a cheap bracelet from a discount store that turned my wrist green after a week. When I complained, Mom snapped, "Vivian, stop being ungrateful. Pearl helps around the house without whining, unlike you. Maybe if you were more like her, you'd get nicer things." Dad stepped in later, slipping me some extra allowance to buy something I wanted, but the damage was done. It was always like that. Mom pitting us against each other, making me feel like I had to earn her love while Pearl got it for free. And Pearl, well, she ate it up, always siding with Mom, rolling her eyes at me like I was the problem. As I got older, the favoritism only got worse. By high school, Pearl was Mom's mini-me, helping with family events and getting praised for every little thing. I focused on my studies, graduating with honors in accounting from NYU, but Mom barely acknowledged it. "That's nice, Vivian," she'd say dismissively, "but Pearl's already managing her own boutique in Soho. When are you going to do something impressive like that?" Dad was proud, though. He helped me land my first job as a junior accountant at a small firm in Midtown, handling books for local businesses. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and gave me independence. Still, Mom never let up, constantly comparing me to Pearl, who could do no wrong in her eyes. Fast forward to when I met Bruce. It was at one of Mom's fancy networking parties 2 years ago, the kind she threw to keep up appearances for Dad's business contacts. Bruce Tucker was charming 35 with a job in finance that sounded stable on paper. He approached me with a smooth line about loving the city skyline, and we hit it off, or so I thought. Looking back, the red flags were there. His too keen interest in Perry properties, the casual questions about Dad's portfolio, the suggestion that I add him to my personal accounts for convenience. But Mom loved him from the start. "Finally, Vivian's someone who can handle you," she'd say with that fake smile. "Bruce is ambitious just like Pearl's husband. You could learn from that." Pearl, married to a successful lawyer, would nod along, adding, "Yeah, sis, don't mess this up. Mom's right, he's a keeper." I pushed my doubts aside, thinking it was just my insecurity from years of Mom's jabs. But overhearing Bruce in that church hallway shattered everything. As the recording captured his confession about the debts, the previous scams, even hinting at harming me if I got in the way, I felt sick. His friends Rodney Simmons and Curtis Powell sounded hesitant, but they didn't stop him. "Man, her mom's pushing this wedding hard," Rodney muttered. "Thinks Bruce is some savior for the family business." That hit me like a punch. Mom had been the one insisting on this marriage, overriding my hesitations, all while Pearl smirked in the background. Tears stung my eyes as I slipped back upstairs, phone clutched tight. How had I let it get this far? Because Mom had drilled into me that I wasn't good enough on my own, that I needed someone like Bruce to fix my life, just like she'd always favored Pearl's choices over mine. Back in the bridal suite, my best friend Nora White was helping with last-minute touches. She'd been my rock since college, the one who saw through Mom's BS. "You okay, Viv? You look pale," she asked, concern in her eyes. I shook my head, pulling her aside. "I need a minute alone with Dad, actually. Can you find him?" Nora nodded, sensing something was off, and left to fetch him. Dad arrived moments later, his face lined with the stress of running Perry properties amid a tough market. He'd always been the buffer between me and Mom, but lately, he'd been worn down, letting her call more shots to keep the peace. "Dad, you have to see this," I whispered, playing the video. His expression shifted from confusion to rage as Bruce's words spilled out. "That bastard!" he muttered, fists clenching. I knew something was off. His questions about the business felt too probing. We both sat there stunned as the implications sank in. The wedding was in 45 minutes, guests arriving, the string quartet tuning up downstairs. And Mom. She'd be furious if we canceled, blaming me for ruining everything like she always did when things didn't go her way. Dad hugged me tight. "We'll handle this, Viv, but we can't let him walk away free. He's done this before, he'll hurt someone else." That's when Dad laid out the plan, his business instincts kicking in. If we expose him now, he bolts. But if we go through with it, act normal, we can trap him. "I'll bring him into Perry Properties, set up monitored accounts with help from a contact at the FBI. We document his theft, wire fraud, embezzlement. He goes down hard." I stared at him, heart racing. Marry a monster. Pretend everything's fine. But then I thought of Mom, how she'd pushed this. How she'd always made me feel like my happiness came second to the family's image. "Mom will love this," I said bitterly. "She's been shoving Bruce down my throat, saying he's better than I deserve." Dad sighed. "Your mom's complicated. She thinks she's protecting the family, but she goes too far, especially with you. We'll deal with her after." I wiped my tears, fixed my makeup with trembling hands. Nora returned with the bridesmaids, oblivious. As we headed down, I steeled myself. The ceremony began, and there was Mom in the front row, beaming like this was her victory. She caught my eye, mouthing, "Smile bigger, Vivian, don't look so tense," even now criticizing me. Dad walked me down the aisle, his grip steady. Bruce stood at the altar, smirking confidently. I said my vows through gritted teeth, kissing him with revulsion bubbling inside. The applause felt mocking. At the reception in a nearby ballroom overlooking Central Park, Mom took center stage during speeches. "I'm so proud of my girls," She gushed but spent twice as long on Pearl's accomplishments. Pearl's boutique is thriving, and now Vivian's finally settling down with a man like Bruce. It's about time she caught up. Guests laughed politely, but I seethed. Pearl added, "Congrats, sis. Bruce, take care of her, she can be a handful." Dad stepped up next, announcing he'd bring Bruce into the business as a consultant. Bruce's eyes gleamed hook-set. Mom clapped loudest, whispering to me later, "See, I told you he'd be good for us. Don't screw this up like you do everything else." The night dragged on, dances, toasts, cake. Bruce kept touching my arm, calling me wife, with that fake charm. I wanted to scream, but I played along, smiling for photos. Dad stayed close, murmuring encouragement. As we left for the hotel, Mom pulled me aside. "Be grateful, Vivian. Not everyone gets a second chance like this after being single so long." Her words stung, reminding me of years of her belittling, calling me picky, saying Pearl was the pretty one, the successful one. In the limo, Bruce leaned in. "Happy, babe, this is just the start." I nodded, forcing a smile, while inside I plotted. This wasn't just about Bruce anymore. It was about breaking free from Mom's control, from always being the lesser daughter. The honeymoon in the Hamptons was torture. 2 weeks of faking affection, while Dad worked behind the scenes. Bruce started pressing for access to my finances right away. "Tax stuff, honey. It'll make things easier." I stalled, saying Dad should review. Back in the city, Dad introduced Bruce to Perry Properties, a modest office in Midtown handling commercial rentals worth about $3 million total. "Show him the ropes," Mom insisted over a casual lunch at home, not a dinner, but her way of celebrating our return. She dominated the conversation, praising Bruce. "You're just what this family needs." "Vivian's lucky," Pearl chimed in. "Yeah, Mom's right. Don't let her drag you down." Dad set up the Trap a Dummy account with $750,000 in liquid assets, monitored by FBI agent Dennis Ford, an old contact from business deals. Every login tracked. Bruce dove in, suggesting investments that were really siphons to his offshore setup. Mom encouraged it, saying, "Listen to Bruce Dennis. He's sharp, unlike some people." She meant me, of course. As days passed, Bruce grew impatient, his calls to Rick overheard snippets turning desperate. One afternoon at the office, he snapped at me over the phone. "Sign the papers, Viv. Your mom's on board." Mom had been pressuring me, too, calling daily. "Do what Bruce says." Pearl would. The escalation hit when Bruce tried his first transfer, $200,000, to a fake supplier, really his account. Agent Ford's team caught it. But Mom, when Dad confronted her privately about suspicions, she dismissed it. "Bruce is family now. You're paranoid like Vivian always is." That's when I realized she wasn't just enabling. She was blinded by her need to control, to make my life fit her narrative, even if it meant ignoring the truth. Pearl backed her, saying, "Mom knows best. Vivian's overreacting again." Things only escalated from there. Bruce didn't stop at that first attempt. Over the next few days, he grew bolder, logging in more frequently and trying smaller transfers to test the waters. Agent Ford kept us updated. Another $50,000 siphoned off, then $75,000 more, all routed to his Cayman Islands account tied to his gambling debts. Dad and I watched from the sidelines, gathering evidence, but the real pressure came from home. Mom started calling me multiple times a day, her voice laced with that familiar mix of disappointment and command. "Vivian, why are you dragging your feet on those financial papers? Bruce says it's simple joint accounting. Pearl set hers up right after her wedding, no fuss." I'd mumble excuses about being busy at work, but inside I was fuming. How could she not see? Or worse, did she see and just not care? As long as it kept up the facade of our perfect family. One evening, about a week after the honeymoon, Mom insisted on a family gathering at our Manhattan apartment. Not a formal dinner, but her idea of a casual check-in with wine and takeout from that overpriced Italian place she loved. She positioned it as celebrating my new life, but it felt like an interrogation. Pearl showed up with her husband, all smug in her designer dress, while Dad looked exhausted from juggling the trap at work. Bruce was there too, of course. arm around me like we were the picture of bliss. As soon as we sat on the living room couch, Mom launched in. Bruce tells me you're hesitating on the accounts, Vivian. What's the holdup? This family needs to stick together, especially with Perry Properties struggling. Bruce could help turn things around. Her eyes bored into me, that same look she'd given me as a kid when I didn't measure up to Pearl's standards. I shifted uncomfortably, glancing at Dad for support. He cleared his throat. Joan, let's not push. Vivian's got a lot on her plate with her job. But Mom waved him off, turning to Pearl. See? This is why I worry about her. Pearl, you never hesitated with your finances. Look how well that's worked out. Pearl nodded, sipping her wine. Exactly, Mom. Vivian, just sign it. Bruce's family now. Don't be so suspicious. It's unbecoming. Bruce squeezed my knee under the coffee table, his touch making my skin crawl. Yeah, hun, it's for us. Your mom's right. We're in this together. The room felt suffocating, their words piling on like they always had, making me the outsider in my own family. I excused myself to the kitchen, pretending to grab more napkins, but really to text Agent Ford. How much longer? His reply. One more big move and we've got him. The next day, at my office balancing ledgers for a chain of coffee shops, the stress hit hard. I botched a simple reconciliation, costing me an extra hour to fix all because my mind was on Mom's relentless push. She'd texted that morning. Think about the family, Vivian. Don't be selfish like you were in high school, always causing drama. It brought back memories of when I was 16 and Pearl was 21. I'd wanted to join the debate team, but Mom said it was a waste, since Pearl had been cheer captain, and that's what got her noticed. Instead, she made me help at Pearl's college events, calling it family duty. Dad had tried to intervene, but Mom guilt-tripped him into backing down. Now it was the same pattern, Mom orchestrating, Pearl echoing me, suffering. Bruce's impatience boiled over that afternoon. He showed up at my work unannounced, cornering me in the break room. Sign the damn papers, Vivian. Your mom agrees it's time. His voice was low-edged with desperation I now knew came from Rick's threats. I stalled again, saying I needed Dad's advice. He stormed out, but not before muttering, "You're making this harder than it needs to be." That night, back at our shared apartment in Chelsea, a place Mom had helped us pick because it was close to Pearl, he paced the living room. Your family's counting on me at Perry Properties. How can I help if you won't let me in? I feigned tiredness from work, retreating to the bedroom, but sleep didn't come. How had Mom enabled this? She'd vetted Bruce, superficially dazzled by his charm, ignoring my subtle warnings. It was like she wanted me tied down, controlled, so I wouldn't outshine her precious Pearl. Mom amped up the pressure the following weekend during a brunch she hosted at a trendy spot in the village. She invited a few of her socialite friends, turning it into a spectacle. My youngest finally married well, she boasted, clinking glasses. Bruce is already making waves at Dennis's firm. One friend asked about my job, but Mom cut in. Oh, Vivian's just an accountant, steady, but nothing like Pearl's boutique empire. Pearl laughed lightly, adding, Yeah, but Bruce will elevate things. Right, sis. I nodded weakly, but inside resentment built. Dad pulled me aside in the restroom line. Hang in there, Viv. Ford says Bruce is close to a major slip, trying to access the main accounts now. But Mom overheard part of it, frowning later. What was that? Whispering, Vivian. If you're causing issues with Bruce, I'll be disappointed. After all I've done, pushing you toward a good match. The breaking point came midweek. Bruce, cornered by his debts, attempted the big one, a $300,000 transfer from the dummy account to cover his mess, plus an unauthorized poke at Perry Properties' real operating funds, over $2 million in rentals. Alarms blared in Ford's system. But before the arrest, Mom called a family meeting at home, sensing tension. She sat us all down in the den, her face stern. Vivian, Bruce says you're blocking progress. Is this true? Pearl never acted this way? Pearl crossed her arms. Mom's right. You're being paranoid like always. Bruce played innocent. I just want to help Joan. Dad tried to deflect, but Mom turned on him. Dennis, control your daughter. She's always been the difficult one. I couldn't hold back anymore. Mom, you have no idea what's going on. Bruce isn't who you think. Her eyes narrowed. Don't you dare badmouth him. He's the best thing that's happened to you, better than you deserve, frankly. Those words, echoing years of put-downs, snapped something in me. Dad intervened. Joan, enough. Vivian's right. Bruce is a fraud. But Mom scoffed. Ridiculous. You're both overreacting. Just then, my phone buzzed. Agent Ford. Teams en route. Stay put. As sirens wailed faintly in the distance, the room tensed. Bruce's face paled. He bolted for the door, but Dad blocked him. Not so fast. Mom stood confused and angry. What's this about? Pearl demanded. Vivian, what have you done? The FBI burst in, moments later cuffing Bruce as he sputtered denials. Ford explained the charges: wire fraud, embezzlement, prior scams. Mom's jaw dropped, but instead of shock at Bruce, she turned to me. You set this up. How could you humiliate the family like this? Pearl echoed. Yeah, Mom trusted him. In that chaotic moment, with Bruce being led away in handcuffs, I realized the real betrayal wasn't just from him. It was from Mom, who'd always chosen to diminish me, to control me, even at the cost of my safety. The FBI agents didn't waste time. They read Bruce his rights right there in our den, his wrists cuffed behind his back as he stammered excuses. This is a mistake, Joan, tell them I'm family. But Mom just stood, frozen, her face a mask of disbelief turning to fury. Not at him, but at me. Vivian, what have you done? How dare you bring this into our home? Pearl clutched her pearls, literally the necklace Mom had given her for her birthday last year, and hissed. You're always causing trouble, Viv. Mom trusted Bruce. We all did because of you. Dad stepped forward, calm but firm. No, Joan. This is on Bruce, and maybe on us for not listening to Vivian sooner. Agent Ford explained the evidence: the recorded confession, the monitored transfers totaling $325,000 in attempted fraud links to 2 prior scams in Boston and Chicago. Bruce's gambling debts to Rick were exposed too, $400,000 that had driven him to target families like ours. As they dragged Bruce out, he twisted toward Mom. Joan, you pushed this wedding, said Vivian needed someone like me to straighten her out. That was the spark. Mom whirled on me, her voice sharp as ever. Is this true? You recorded him at our wedding. You let this happen under my nose. I met her gaze, years of resentment boiling over. Your wedding, Mom. You chose the cathedral, the guest list, everything to show off. You shoved Bruce at me, said he was better than I deserved, just like you've always said Pearl's the only one worth anything. Pearl jumped in. Mom doesn't deserve this. You're ungrateful, Viv, always have been. But Dad held up a hand. Enough. Joan, you've favored Pearl for years, made Vivian feel like second best. This ends now. The agents took statements, and as the door shut behind Bruce, the room fell silent. Mom sank into a chair, muttering, How could you betray me like this, Vivian, after all I've sacrificed? The fallout hit fast and hard. Bruce's trial came 3 months later in a federal courthouse downtown. More victims surfaced, families he'd conned out of hundreds of thousands, leading to charges of wire fraud, embezzlement, and identity theft. He got 7 years in prison plus restitution orders that bankrupted him completely. But the real consequences rippled through our family. Perry Properties took a hit from the scandal. Clients pulled out, fearing association with the fraud. Dad had to downsize the firm, selling off 2 commercial buildings worth over $1 million each to cover legal fees and lost revenue. Mom, who'd always prided herself on our prestigious image, lost her social standing. Her friends distanced themselves. Invitations to events dried up. She blamed me, of course, calling late at night. You destroyed us, Vivian. Pearl's boutique is suffering because of the bad press. Pearl's business, a high-end shop in Soho, saw sales plummet. She had to lay off staff and take out loans, her perfect life cracking under the weight. Worse for them, Dad finally drew lines. Joan, you've poisoned this family long enough. he told her during a tense meeting at a neutral coffee shop in Midtown away from home. Favoring Pearl, belittling Vivian, it's over. If you can't treat both daughters equally, you'll lose us all. Mom gasped. Dennis, how can you side with her? She's always been the problem. Pearl nodded vigorously. Mom's right, Dad. Vivian set this trap. But Dad stood firm, revealing he'd seen the patterns for years but stayed quiet for peace. He moved out temporarily to a small apartment in Brooklyn, forcing Mom to confront her isolation. Without his support, she couldn't maintain her lifestyle. Country club dues, lapsed her wardrobe gatherings, dust. Pearl, used to Mom's handouts, faced eviction notices when sales tanked further. She begged for help, but Dad redirected funds to stabilize the business under my input, cutting her off from easy money. As for me, the turning point was that courthouse day. Watching Bruce sentenced, I felt a weight lift, not just from him, but from Mom's hold. I filed for annulment immediately, citing fraud, and it went through cleanly. Therapy started soon after, twice a week, with a counselor in the East Village who specialized in family dynamics. She helped me unpack the years of feeling invisible, of Mom's constant comparisons. Why can't you be more like Pearl? Sessions revealed how Mom's dislike stemmed from her own insecurities projecting onto me because I challenged her, unlike Pearl, who mirrored her. Work improved too. With the distraction gone, I got promoted to senior accountant at my firm, handling bigger clients like tech startups. Nora, my best friend, was there through it all, dragging me to yoga classes and brunches where we laughed about dodging bullets. Life blossomed in ways I'd never imagined. 6 months post-trial, Dad and I rebuilt Perry Properties together, he as CEO, me consulting on finances part-time. We turned it around, focusing on affordable housing rentals that brought steady income without the flash Mom craved. I moved to a cozy loft in Williamsburg, far from the family apartment's toxic vibes and romance. It found me unexpectedly at a networking event for accountants. Thomas Smith, a kind architect with no hidden agendas. Our first date was simple coffee in Central Park, where he listened without probing about money. You're impressive on your own, he said, a far cry from Mom's judgments. Dad vetted him quietly, clean background, genuine, and gave his blessing. Thomas became my rock, helping me set boundaries like no contact periods with Mom when she tried guilting me back. Mom and Pearl paid the ultimate price. They lost everything that mattered. Mom's reputation shattered. She had to sell her jewelry collection, including pieces she'd gifted Pearl, to cover bills. Pearl's boutique closed after bankruptcy filings, her marriage strained from the financial hit. They moved to a tiny rental in Queens, far from Manhattan's glamour, begging for reconciliation. But I held firm. During our last confrontation, a video call, Dad mediated. Mom, you've hated me for not fitting your mold, always starting fights with your insults, pushing Pearl ahead while holding me back. No more. I choose myself now, she cried. Vivian, family forgives. Pearl added, you're heartless like always. But I ended the call, blocking their numbers. Dad supported it, divorcing Mom amicably, but keeping distance from Pearl's drama. Looking back, I learned that family isn't about blood, it's about respect and boundaries. Love shouldn't come with conditions or comparisons. I won't let Mom or that side hurt me again. I've built a life where I'm valued, surrounded by people who see me for me. Therapy taught me to spot toxicity early, and with Thomas and Dad, I've found real peace. What about you? Have you ever had to cut ties with family to protect yourself? Share your stories in the comments. I'd love to hear how you chose yourself.